All right, Shalom. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rekah Kodash. Double honor to the apostles, the elders, great millstone, rule well. Peace and salutation to you, brothers, reflect which is word and truth and sincerity. All right, this is a BRICS currency. Could it rival the U.S. dollar? Okay, the BRICS currency. So, here's an article, as you can see, from June 12th, 2023. So that's 2 months ago. But there's a lot of good information in here on just the history of the U.S. dollar and how it became the world's reserve currency. So this article is actually a really good read here. Really good information. All right. So, and it's also, you see, it's from NPR, National Public Radio. All right. And I'm read through the article, okay? And then, of course, we get some scriptures on it and we get out of here. But it says, the title says, the U.S. dollar conquered the world. Is it at risk of losing its top spot? And it says, you might just think of the dollar as the money in your wallet, the cash you use to buy your morning coffee. But the dollar is much more, Salakia, but the dollar is much bigger than that. The dollar is the world's currency. It dominates global business. Economists call it the global reserve currency, a fancy title the dollar got about 80 years ago that has brought some pretty serious perks to the U.S. economy. But could the dollar get knocked off the top spot? There are challengers emerging, and history shows that countries whose currency dominated the globe can fall from the top spot pretty fast, even over the course of a few days. Okay? It says even over the course of a few days. So that's how quick, with the damn near a snap of a finger, that chaos can really brew in this place. Okay? It could really get hectic and chaotic in a few days. Let hyperinflation set in and take place. When you go to the store, you can buy a loaf of bread for $2, $3, or $4, and then it's all of a sudden $50 or $100 or none at all. No more bread at all. All right. But it says how it started: timing plus muscle plus lots of gold. The U.S. dollar did not luck its way into the top spot. It was a carefully engineered plan that unfolded in the mountains of New Hampshire nearly 80 years ago. At the time, the British pound sterling was the international currency, a title it had held for decades. The dollar's rise happened pretty suddenly at the Bretton Woods International Monetary Conference in 1944. The Bretton Woods was gathering of world leaders at the end of World War II. They came together to try and establish an international system for trade and finance to help bind the world together and increase prosperity for all. Everyone agreed that in order to ease international trade, there needed to be a common currency, a standard everyone could use. At the time of the conference, the British economy was in shambles. The cost of fighting a war on its own soil had been enormous. It was clear that the British pound sterling could not be the currency everyone counted on. So the British pushed for a new currency that would solely be used for inter-country trades. Economist John Maynard Keynes who was at Bretton Woods on behalf of the British, proposed a bancor, a mix of the French word for bank and bank, and the French word for gold. So it's a mix of two French words, bank and bank, for bank and gold. Okay. But also suggested orb and even unicorn. But the U.S. dollar left bancor, the orb, and the unicorn in its dust. The U.S. was economically quite strong. It also had lots of gold in its vaults, which made people feel like its wealth was backed up. And of course, that's the difference now. U.S. doesn't have that gold like it once had before. Okay? It used these advantages to help muscle the dollar in as the official currency of international business at the conference. The perks of being the world's currency. Being the world's reserve currency essentially means the US dollar is at the center of the most of the business on earth. Okay? That's why America Babylon the Great has such one of the reasons why it has such great power and influence. Okay, but we're seeing in these last days that power and influence is close to being toppled. All right. If you're a clothing designer in Chile and you order cotton from Egypt for some shirts you plan to make, you will pay for the cotton in US dollars, not Chilean pesos, and not Egyptian pounds. To be clear, the US isn't involved in that deal at all, but the US dollar is. When international deals happen, they usually happen in dollars. This is a big boost to the US in all kinds of ways. For example, it means domestic business have a home currency, which is the US dollar, advantage when they do business overseas. But as the Bretton Woods conference demonstrated, that top spot can slip away pretty fast. We have an important advantage which may whittle away slowly if we're not careful, says economist Michael Boskin, a former White House advisor, and it's whittling away fast, not slowly. The challenges to the dollar. There are a couple of reasons why the dollar status is suddenly being talked about as at risk. Earlier this year, China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, or UAE, and even Brazil started making trades in other currencies, the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble. This was a very direct challenge to the US dollar's central position. Why? Because like you read earlier, we established that the US dollar is the world reserve currency or the global reserve currency. So thus all international trade with China and Russia or two different nations internationally, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Brazil, these are all different countries. Okay, so thus that being international trade. So remember, all international trade should be made in the US dollar, not their own domestic or local currency. Okay, it says this was a very direct challenge to the US dollar's central position. China has long been pushing to have its currency replace the dollar, the yuan, but it's getting momentum now for a couple of possible reasons. First, the debt ceiling, being the currency everyone counts on to do business, means people have to believe that your currency is reliable, and the reliability of the US dollar has truly been declining. Okay, that recent debt ceiling drama made the US and by extension the dollar look potentially risky and unstable. Exactly. All right. Matter of fact, let's grab that real quick. It's Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 6. Shall not these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? And that's what America Babylon the Great, Esau, Edom has done. They've increaseth in the things that are not theirs. Okay? They're always in everybody's countries, taking their resources, all these different things. Okay? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And what is that thick clay? It goes to Ibatyat, which means weight of pledges or heavy debts. Okay, when you get to the debt clock, we were trillions and trillions of dollars into debt, along with the decline of the purchasing power of the dollar. All that adds to the decrease in the reliability of the U.S. dollar. Okay, and it says, let's see. Using the dollar as an economic weapon. The debt ceiling is not at the heart of the recent spate of non-dollar trades, says Ben Steele, an economist with the Council of Foreign Relations. The real issue is the U.S. government's increasing use of the dollar as a tool for financial sanctions. So that's the problem. They've taken that particular position of power and become and Esau that thing. Remember, when Esau gets power, they want everything. They're non-stop. Okay, they can literally cannot be satisfied. So that's the issue. All right. It says the dollar is so powerful, if you can't use it, you are essentially iced out of being able to do business anywhere in the world. You see that? That's an Esau type deal that they would do. Okay? The U.S. has used its non-violent way to put pressure on countries. North Korea, Iran, and most recently Russia. After the invasion of Ukraine, the U.S. said, no dollar for you. No dollar for you. Okay? So they're using non-violent ways to pressure the other countries, and they're using violent means of pressuring the other countries. Through its military might also. Okay? Thus, that's why this place has had that much power and that much influence and that much dominance over the world all these years. Steele says the economic impacts of those sanctions have been massive and other countries have noticed. Sanctions are an effective tool, but we have to be careful, he says. It's like overprescribing an effective antibiotic. It encourages development of new strains of bacteria that are persistent to the antibiotic. If you are a country that has a complicated relationship with the U.S., watching the effect of American financial sanctions on Russia is scary. It's been enough to push China, Saudi Arabia, and others to make deals that get around the dollar, trying to chip away at its power. And we call them backdoor deals. Okay? That's what they're doing. They've been making backdoor deals. This is not nearly as efficient as using the dollar, Steele says, of these deals that can lead to a massive fragmentation of the global economy and a much less efficient and less productive global economy. So this U.S. dollar has held the world economy together all these years, for many decades, okay? And for almost a millennium, okay? So like not a millennium, I said a millennium, a century, okay? For almost a century. And is unraveling, okay? But it says it's still all about the Benjamins for now. For right now, the dollar has a lot of momentum and is not at any immediate risk of losing its top spot. Still, he says momentum can change fast, which is very true. If y'all ever watch any sports, any type of sport, momentum shifts very quickly. Okay? Same thing happened in the world too, doing world affairs. Other countries in previous times have been the reserve currency and they fritter that away. He says, we need to be very careful. Right now, with so much global turmoil, China and others have started to see a possible opening to grab that top spot, or at least started to chip away at the U.S. dollar's dominance. And at the end of the day, they say U.S. dollar might fall, another currency come up and replace it. Yeah, that's what they say, but at the end of the day, it's all about that chip, okay? All about that mark of the beast, okay? The MOTB, all right? That's what it'll ultimately lead to. I'm going to grab this here. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fear their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of the iniquity. Because at the end of the day, when that time comes, your U.S. dollars, your British pounds, your Russian ruble, your Chinese yuan, your whatever it is you got, ain't gonna save you. Your silver, your gold ain't gonna save you. There's gonna be a time where all of that's gonna mean nothing. Okay, that money, that, like I said, the U.S. dollar, the ruble, yuan, all that, the pound, the pesos, whatever you got, ain't gonna amount to nothing. All right, because what's gonna be happening is this right here. It's Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1. The burden of Egypt, and we know this is spiritual Egypt. Behold, the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, rideth upon a swift cloud, which is a chariot, and shall come into Egypt, spiritual Egypt here, America, Babylon the Great, And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, everyone against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. Okay? And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Okay? So they gonna look to everything. You know, it's gonna be a point in time where you're gonna have race wars, riots, uproars of the people, class wars, all these different things. Okay? It's going to be all out chaos. These people are going to be fighting each other. And there won't be no form of currency that you can trade, during that time. Alright? Like I said, ultimately, it's coming down to this. Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their right hand or in their foreheads. Okay, so you see that mark, all right, which is that that RFID chip. Okay, and we say he calls of, it means to make ready. Okay, and he's literally been making the earth ready. Through everything being digital, through cashless payments, this cashless society. Okay, everything scan and go, touch and go. All right, and no man might buy or sell, save or except he that had the mark or the charagma or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, that's what it's going to. Once again, that RFID chip. But guess what the Lord is going to do to it? The Lord ain't gonna let that go through. Okay, he might let them get a little bit of it going, but ultimately he's not going to let it go through fully. All right, this is Job chapter 20, verse 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Okay, so when he's sufficient, he's getting full. He's eating off his plate. He's reaping the benefits of the work that he put in. It says he's going to be in straits. straits, meaning positions of difficulty. Okay, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. All these other nations are gonna turn on him. Okay, all these so-called allies, they're gonna fight him. They're gonna shoot these nuclear missiles upon him. When he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So when he set his plate down, he done fixed his food, sat down at his table, got his plate, he putting his napkin in his shirt, to try not make a mess. He grabbing his fork and his knife in his hand, getting ready to eat that steak and taters or steak and whatever you got. He getting ready to cut into it. He might eat a bite or two. But guess what? The Lord is going to rain it upon him while he is eating. So he going to get a bite or two. He going to get a little bit of it off, but he ain't going to fully enjoy it. But it says, verse 24, he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. What's that? The nuclear missiles, okay? The nuclear missiles are going to strike him through, are going to purge this place out, are going to dead and lay this place waste. Okay? The debt, the currencies, the gold, the debt currencies, all that stuff is going to be laid waste. The power structure is going to be broken down. And no, China is not the next up, and no, Russia is not the next up. The next up is Yahweh Shai. Okay? That's it. Alright? But this is just a lesson on that BRICS currency. Okay? Matter of fact, I didn't even lift it up real quick. Let me see something. I'm gonna just look this up here real quick. BRICS Bank looks to local currencies as Russia sanctions bite. Okay, like we had read in the previous article. Okay, Russia's feeling them sanctions. They ain't liking it, so they're doing these backdoor deals with BRICS. Okay, I'm just read this here. This starting here. It says South Africa will host leaders of the other BRICS nations, and these are the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China. Okay, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. All right. You see, once again, like I said, I'll just I'm not gonna read this article. I'll just bring it out to show you they're in the process. They're trying to make these backdoor deals to literally dethrone the U.S. dollar. All right, it's a big deal. Okay, but call all y'all about Shema, Shah, about Shema, Kakwa, Dash, be edified. Shalom.